What if everything about self-improvement you've learned is actually hurting you? We've constructed a massive industry based on the idea that we're inherently flawed, perpetually adjusting ourselves as if we're malfunctioning devices. Yet here's the transformative truth. The very premise that you need fixing is the only thing that's actually broken. Imagine a sea wave suddenly becoming conscious and worrying because it's not solid like a stone, because it endlessly modifies shape. The wave would seek to correct itself and become more solid. How preposterous would that be? Yet this is exactly how we humans operate each day. The wave is already flawless in its nature, but we've convinced ourselves that we're flawed projects requiring constant renovation. We've been fed an inverted narrative. You bear problems requiring remedies, dimensions needing development, and if you strive adequately and locate the proper approach, you can ultimately correct yourself and transform into who you should be. This narrative is so threaded through our culture that we scarcely doubt it. We adopt our identity as continuous works being perfected. However, what if this foundation is totally reversed? Here's something revolutionary. You were never imperfect, never incomplete, never a problem needing solution. The single thing requiring mending is the idea that you need mending. Observe the natural environment. When you witness a tree, you don't rate its limbs as substandard. The tree is beautiful exactly as it is. It grows and responds to its environment, but doesn't schedule assemblies about personal enhancement. We as humans have developed this power to become our own critics and controllers. We stare in the mirror and view a remodeling job needing attention. Trees also learn, identifying which root to grow toward radiance, how to extend roots further down. However, trees don't afflict themselves over insufficient size. They react naturally to what existence presents. The divergence is trees rely on their nature, while we've learned to mistrust ours. We've been trained to think our instincts are questionable, our responses probably wrong. Thus we develop an inner critic examining all we do. Am I efficient enough? Am I improving at the proper rate? It's draining, like carrying a control freak in your mind, continuously deeming you inadequate. However, this supervisor isn't your real nature. It's internalized critiques, acquired benchmarks from parents, instructors, and civilization. You've assimilated a counsel causing you to feel permanently lacking. But who witnesses this counsel? Who observes these judgments? Something in you witnesses this performance without becoming involved. That being is your real identity. You're not the concepts about who you are. You are the awareness where all this occurs, like climate conditions across sky. The sky is never impaired by atmospheric phenomena. Storms come and go, yet the sky stays immense. In the same way, ideas of inadequacy arrive and leave, but your core remains unaltered. You can transform and develop without the narrative that you're fundamentally incomplete. Observe toddlers learning to walk. They collapse frequently. Do they generate tales about being defective? Never. They stand and retry because walking seems entertaining. Learning takes place instinctively, playfully, without self-assessment. There are two approaches to change. One assumes you're broken, like a mechanic working on a faulty engine. The other understands you're already whole, like a gardener trusting natural growth. The mechanic struggles, while the gardener works alongside nature. Most improvement methods are mechanistic. We deal with ourselves like systems requiring improved coding. However, what if you're more like a garden having built-in intelligence? When you believe in this wisdom, you end struggling against yourself. Rather than shoving yourself into forms, you enable your structure to develop. When you stop combating yourself, you release tremendous energy for life. Consider how much energy you spend evaluating yourself. Think if that power were available for remaining present. The person who knows their whole directs vitality toward expression and exploration. Here's something eye-opening. When you stop endeavoring to fix yourself, matters you assumed needed correction often handle themselves. When you stop manufacturing self-judgment, your clarity settles. A lot of what we think is defective results from attempts to fix what was never imperfect. You might think you have an anxiety problem and try techniques to fix it. However, this endeavor produces more anxiety. What if feeling anxious occasionally is perfectly normal? When you stop making anxiety a problem, it frequently dissipates organically. We've been conditioned to believe we should have specific feelings: joyful, assured, serene. However, feelings are the weather systems of awareness, occasionally rough, occasionally placid. This isn't a flaw. This same truth applies to character traits we view as defects. Maybe you're quiet in a culture honoring extroversion. Rather than correcting these traits, understand them as your singular contribution. Oak trees don't attempt to become pine trees. Rivers don't feel bad about not being mountains. When you embrace your nature totally, something magical happens. You cease depleting vitality, being what you aren't. This doesn't indicate you never acquire knowledge, but learning comes from curiosity rather than inadequacy. You learn because growth is fun. Children don't struggle with imagination. They simply dream naturally and effortlessly. We develop skepticism toward innate intelligence. We've turned our internal world into a business with performance metrics. Yet your authentic essence still exists, waiting for you to realize you were never incomplete to begin with. Here's a paradox. The more you endeavor to improve yourself, the more you solidify needing betterment. However, when you comprehend you were never broken, evolution happens naturally, without strain. When you believe in your essence, development unfolds like blossoms blooming, splendidly in their own rhythm. This isn't apathy, but reliance on the intelligence that sustains your heartbeat. So here's a suggestion. Engage in an experiment. For one day, discontinue attempting to mend yourself. Treat that day as a present to accept. Meet emotions without changing them. Perceive thoughts without judging. Approach yourself like a beloved friend, with warmth, forbearance, and humor. You may find you're splendid precisely as you exist. This is the profound truth. You were never flawed. You're already full, already intact, already adequate. You're not isolated from life. You are life expressing itself in human form, and life is celebration. We're all waves in the same sea, each one of a kind, each entire, each temporary. When you grasp this as living reality, you can finally relax into being who you are. Your true being is more gorgeous than your imagined perfect self. You don't require becoming more like existence because you are existence pretending to be you. The wave is the sea experiencing itself as a wave. If these words struck a chord with you, I sincerely invite you to subscribe to the channel, follow for more content that questions standard thinking about personal growth and self-enhancement, and leave a comment below with the word whole to indicate you're prepared to embrace your entire, unbroken being precisely as you exist right now.